Overdrive, today we settle your powertrain debate. Should you drive a petrol, a diesel, a hybrid or an EV on Indian roads today? And we also take you through the Lamborghini Urus Performante. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Soini Dutt. There is no debate on the fact that India is big on SUVs. In fact, the debate only arises when you have to decide which powertrain suits best for your pocket. So we decided to pit a petrol-powered SUV against a diesel, against a hybrid and also against an electric one. Take a look.
Hatchbacks still rule the roost. Sub-4 meter SUV pretenders, well, they continue to offer great value. But it's the mid-size crossovers that are attracting the most attention. And it isn't hard to see why. These vehicles offer tremendous space for a family of 5. They have a lot of features, so much so that they can give luxury cars a run for their money. And then they offer a good mix of performance and efficiency. All of this makes them a rather compelling buy. In fact, it could arguably be the only car you might ever need.
But today we aren't here to pick out a winner. Instead, we are here to talk about the differences in the powertrain department. Because for the first time ever, this segment now has a diesel, a petrol hybrid and an all-electric to choose from. The Koreans are still betting big on diesel and their sales are strong. Therefore, the representing diesel powertrain for this test is the Hyundai Creta.
So in the BS6 era, now with the phase 2 of it kicking in, the emission norms have become a lot more stringent. But the 1.5 diesel from the Koreans in the Creta or in the Kia Seltos, these two cars have the volumes, so they can still make the changes that are necessary to make this diesel engine compliant for the phase 2 norms. So this 1.5 diesel that does duty in the Creta is not just clean enough for the BS6 phase 2 standards, but also continues to remain one of the punchiest 1.5 litre diesels around. It's also extremely refined. Of course, in this company of petrols and electrified vehicles, it does feel a bit noisy and coarse, but for a diesel by itself, it's superbly refined.
It continues to offer excellent economy, and if your driving trend includes a lot of extra urban or highway runs, the diesel could still make a lot of sense for you.
Add to it excellent gearbox options, like the manual here has slick throws. If you go with the automatic, it's nice and telepathic, it's quick as well. So those gearbox options combined with a supple ride, taut handling dynamics around winding roads like these, combine all of that and you have a car that feels premium, whether you're driving it in the city, out on the highway, or even around the twisties.
The Creta, like the Kia Seltos, comes loaded to the gills with new age creature comforts and features like ventilated seats, branded audio and connected tech with over-the-air updates. The Creta has one of the roomiest cabins too, while providing a large boot space that pips the Highrider and the Taigun. The other diesel options you could consider in this price bracket are the Kia Seltos, which has similar credentials to the Creta, or the MG Hector and the Tata Harrier, but they aren't as efficient.
But if you think that diesels don't make financial sense for you, or you're worried about the future of the diesel vehicles, or you think that your daily running or yearly running is so low that hybrids or electric vehicles may not make any financial sense, or you're simply a petrol head, if it's either of the above or all of the above, then the pure petrol propulsion is what will catch your fancy. And what better crossover to represent the petrol camp than this, the Volkswagen Taigun. It's a nice compact package which is powered by what I think is one of the sweetest petrol engines under 25 lakh rupees, the 1.5 TSI.
It is almost impossible to drive it gently because of the performance it packs. But should you control your right foot and use the engine cylinder deactivation technology to your advantage, you should be able to get a good fuel economy out of it. Otherwise, it can be quite thirsty.
So the torque is on par with the Creta diesel. So lugging a family of 5 going on road trips, no problem at all. But more importantly, it puts out 150 PS of power from a package that weighs a little over 1300 kilos. So the power to weight ratio is excellent. The acceleration is brisk. Edge of the seat entertainment all the time is almost guaranteed. What I also like about the engine is that it's a 4-cylinder, which means it sounds a little bit better than most of the other thrummy 3-cylinder engines that you have in this segment. The DSG also comes in the exclusive GT Plus variant, meaning you also get some additional creature comforts. Though it is no match for what the Koreans or surprisingly even the Japanese are offering for a similar price point. So the Taygun may appear compact on the outside, but the space is on par or in some respects even better than the Creta. We can tell you because we actually measured it. In terms of the seating comfort, I quite like it. Maybe people with a larger frame than mine might find the contouring, especially of the front seats, to be a bit intrusive, especially around your shoulders. But otherwise, I quite like the seating comfort. I also quite like the ride quality on the Taygun. You could also choose the Kushaq with similar engine and credentials, or you could go with the smaller 1-liter engine of the Kushaq or the Taygun. But despite being of a smaller displacement, it is thirstier than the 1.5 and certainly not as much fun to drive. Oh, the 1.5 TSI from Volkswagen, I just can't stop talking about it, right? It will ensure that if you are even this bit of a driving enthusiast, it will always plaster a smile on your face. But don't shun the electrics.
Welcome back. You're with us on Overdrive. Now we brought together a petrol, diesel, electric and hybrid SUV together to tell you which one is the most economical. And now it's time for us to bring in the MG ZS EV and the Toyota Hyryder into the mix and to tell you all about our findings.
For the 1.5 TSI from Volkswagen, I just can't stop talking about it, right? It will ensure that if you are even this bit of a driving enthusiast, it will always plaster a smile on your face. But don't shun the electrics. With their instantaneous torque and the subsequent acceleration that they provide, it's something that you need to experience. It's something that is addictive even in this class. In fact, this car will always ensure that it still gives you more laughs than something like the Nexon EV. The price premium it charges over the Nexon or any of the crossovers you see here will make you frown. But this electric will pay its dividends in the long run should you be an early adopter. From getting off the mark to driving in the city, driving out of your neighborhood, going onto the highway, driving out of the twisties, it's an electric, so it's all silent. This silent powertrain is actually nice. People around you will actually appreciate it. And apart from that appreciation, the best-in-class power and the lowest running cost is something that you will appreciate. So it seems like the ZS EV is making all the right noises. And being an MG, it is high on features and creature comforts too. It also has the largest boot of this test. So even short road trips to outskirts like these are doable as long as the roads are good, because the ride quality is pretty firm. But short is the keyword for your road trips here, because as per our tests, a 300 odd kilometer range at best is what the ZS EV might give you. So if you're going to have to travel longer than that, if you frequent the highways often, if you shuttle between cities often, then at least in this particular price bracket, the electric powertrain is not for you. That brings us to the hybrid. Now, until the Honda hybrid crossover comes out later this year, you only have two options if you want a hybrid in this particular price bracket. You have the Maruti Suzuki Grand Vitara and then you have the Hyryder. They're siblings, they share a lot of parts, they share the powertrains as well. But we've chosen the latter because what we've chosen is the full hybrid, which is a powertrain that belongs to Toyota, which is why it's also a little cheaper if you buy the Hyryder hybrid compared to the Grand Vitara hybrid, because they don't have to pay royalty, etc. Now, this hybrid powertrain is very similar in tech to the Camry and the Prius that preceded this car. However, unlike those two cars, this one is way more economically priced. So much so, in fact, that these two cars now from Maruti and Toyota are democratizing hybrid and making it easy to access for the masses. It commands a fair premium over its competition though, but the running costs are hard to ignore. It pips the diesel on outright economy and long road trips
won't riddle you with the range anxiety like an electric would. The ride quality is better than an EV like the ZS, which doesn't come with adaptive dampers given the price constraints. And because Maruti and Toyota are already doing large volumes with these two models, they have also been able to offer features and creature comforts that are on par with Hyundai or Kia.
Yes, I know it's not an outright comparison, but if I had to pick out the best looking vehicle, not just in this comparison, but out of all the crossovers in this price bracket, I think it would be the Hyryder. It looks sporty and still manages to look so elegant. Just don't buy it in white. The blue looks better.
But as we mentioned right at the beginning, this is not an all-out comparison of the models. It's more to do with the powertrains. Let us crunch the numbers now and see which of these cars or powertrains will make the most economic sense for you. We have driven these vehicles on a real-world driving cycle which includes 75% city and 25% highway use, and all the prices for the fuel, electricity and the vehicles are referenced in Mumbai in February 2023. We have not included the service costs for the sake of consistency, as these may differ as per your driving style or conditions. As you can see, the diesel car isn't the most fuel efficient anymore, as the hybrid and the pure electric vehicles overshadow it by a huge margin. The cylinder deactivation technology of the Taygun 1.5 does offer some respite in the petrol department, but the driving pleasure penalizes outright economy. With the Creta diesel manual as the baseline then, the Taygun DSG costs at least Rs 2.5 more per kilometer. A caveat here is that the diesel automatic Creta, not accounted for over here, is Rs 65,000 more than the Taygun GT, in which case the toss-up between the two is negligible over an ownership period. And from that perspective, I would certainly buy the Taygun for the elevated driving fun it offers. But it is hard to ignore the economic advantage offered by the electrics. The Hyryder Hybrid, for example, will save you about ₹1.50 per kilometer over the diesel Creta, which means you will save around 30,000 rupees over 20,000 kilometers. So while the hybrids do have a significant efficiency edge, the cost of the technology needs to drop further to negate the higher petrol price. And in the coming years, we might just see this happen. But remember, in a hybrid, you're paying for an engine plus the battery plus the electric motor, so the costs are certainly going to remain slightly higher. The same doesn't hold true for pure electric vehicles too, but even there, the cost of technology needs to drop. The running cost of Rs 1.35 per kilometer is extremely tempting if you are the kind who likes to rake up a lot of miles every year. But the MG ZS EV comes at quite a hefty premium over its ICE or hybrid competitors. And the limited range and the long charging times are deterrents for those wanting to cover long distances in a day. Advancements in battery technology aims to make long range and low cost possible in the near future though. And given how quickly the Indian market is adopting EVs, the transition will happen sooner than later. As of today, the diesel is still the obvious choice for those traveling long distances or clocking big yearly mileage. But as you can already see in the market, the diesel options are dwindling by the day. In such a scenario, you will either want to be an early adopter, face some infrastructural challenges and move to electrics, or side with the petrol powertrains and enjoy their refinement, sounds and mechanical connection while they last. Or if you'd ask me, I would simply choose a hybrid in the current scenario and get the best of all the worlds. So if I had to pick out a car out of these four, it would be the hybrid, either the Toyota Hyryder or the Maruti Suzuki Grand Vitara, whichever you prefer in terms of the styling.
Welcome back. Here with us on Overdrive. The rally mode in the Lamborghini Urus is a mad addition to an already mad SUV. In fact, it makes you feel like Colin McRae. Now, this is an SUV which is totally a beast, and not a beast that you would want caged in your garage.
The Lamborghini Urus, at its peak, is exactly what I'm driving right now. This is the Urus Performante, and it comes with some significant changes that enhance the drive experience. Well, not bad. The Urus was an insane SUV. One of the finest super SUVs to come out. The first of the lot, in fact. It started off this trend of super SUVs before everyone else kind of jumped onto that bandwagon. And this is one of those last hurrahs before Lamborghini goes down with an entirely new powertrain that is going to be hybrid and then, of course, eventually electric. And the Performante is distinguished by about 3 or 4 critical changes. One of them is a bump in power outputs. In true Lamborghini tradition, the Performante is also lighter, significantly lighter than the Urus.
A very interesting addition is the new rally mode in the drive selector. It allows you to drive the Urus Performante on dirt and, as you can see, leave a massive trail of dust as you execute mind-boggling slides with perfect control.
The last and most important change that has come about in the Urus Performante is that Lamborghini worked very closely with Pirelli to develop an all-new tyre. It's stickier, it's grippier, and Pirelli, whom they worked with, made this far better than what they've ever done before on any of the Urus series that you've experienced. So let me tell you more about the performance enhancements. The engine's the same 4-litre V8 turbocharged, petrol turbocharged motor. Lamborghini hasn't worked much on that, apart from, well, changing the throttle mapping and working on a few bits and bobs here and there to bump up power by about 16 horsepower, taking it to a maximum of 657 horsepower. Torque also has increased considerably, but more than anything else, that throttle mapping, that makes it a lot more fun. Now, the Urus Performante isn't significantly quicker than the Urus. It still does the 0 to 100 in about 3 seconds. In fact, it could be a little slower, maybe a little quicker, depending on how you equip this car. So here we are on a nice and twisty section going up towards Nandi Hills. And this is where you can actually make out just how much grippier the tires are. Phenomenal, because there is literally no understeer. These tires are just gripping. It's absolutely mad what they're capable of doing. This is an Urus that was bred to be driven on a racetrack. Downforce on the Urus Performante is increased by about 37%. Now, that also comes courtesy of a spoiler at the rear end. But then Lamborghini has also worked on the suspension and they've changed it a bit using coil springs, and that effectively lowers the ground clearance by about 1 inch. That's a significant change. The Urus Performante sits an inch closer to the ground than the standard Urus. However, that also means that the ride quality is stiffer. We're on a fantastic stretch of road, smooth, and you really can't make out how much of a difference the stiffness in that suspension brings to this SUV, but it is stiff. So if you thought the standard Urus had a hard ride quality, well, the Performante emphasizes that significantly. Lamborghini has also enhanced the entire Urus experience by changing the exhaust. They're now using a titanium exhaust, which means, well, there's better thermodynamic efficiencies, but it just sounds so much more incredible than it ever did. This is just a mind-blowing aural experience. This is what you want a Lamborghini for, because it just sounds so great. It just sounds unreal. You just want to be doing this all day long, flipping the throttle and hearing that exhaust crack and popple. So we're driving the Urus Performante in tarmac conditions. Now we are on a dirt surface. This is Bren Raceway, an upcoming F2 grade circuit. We're seeing how torque vectoring works and how well it works. What the Performante also does is lays greater emphasis on torque distribution between the front and the rear axles. Pretty amazing. You know that there's a difference in the suspension, you know there's a difference in the steering, and all of these come together to make it a lot more fun. I can only imagine what the car would feel like when you actually take it to a racetrack.
Time to wrap up this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through Facebook, Twitter as well as YouTube, and you can follow our latest updates on Instagram. We'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye. Thanks for watching.